It's that special time of year when we see family, exchange gifts, and hopefully take some well-earned time off. That's right, it's Bloodborne Miss. Listen, I love Bloodborne. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and I'll take any excuse to talk about it. Much like the last time, I hope I can offer some new insight. The video was about insight. Or maybe this is just an excuse to talk about a game I love and show off some swag. I'll never tell. If you're watching this video and have never played Bloodborne before, take that spoiler warning seriously, but also, welcome. I'm glad you're here. You will never find any gatekeeping here on the channel.
The same can't be said for Bloodborne itself, which will, kill you. A lot. That's par for the course with From Software, a developer whose recent history is largely wrapped up in the Soulsborne moniker. It's a range of games that spans Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Elden Ring, and of course, Bloodborne. There's a lot of shared DNA among these games, the most famous being the difficulty level. All of these games will kill you. A lot. They also share heaps of lore and beautifully constructed worlds that twist and connect in clever ways, all decorated with stunning architecture. A lot of them also include snow areas, like Dark Souls' Painted World of Ariamis and Sekiro's Sunken Valley. Not only does Bloodborne stand out among the Soulsborne games as my favorite, but it also happens to have my favorite snow zone, Cainhurst Castle.
I don't normally do this with my videos, but I want to tell you a quick story.
Back in the spring of 2015, a younger Tony was finishing college while simultaneously doing a ton of freelance for some big gaming websites. I was lucky enough to receive an early copy of Bloodborne so that I could work on guides for Games Radar. I've linked one in the description if you're curious. It doesn't have as much of my original writing at this point, but it still gets the point across. Now, if you've played Bloodborne yourself, you know that reaching Cainhurst Castle takes a bit of doing. You have to find the hidden route into Yosefka's clinic via the Forbidden Woods. Doing so will lead you to a back room containing the Cainhurst summons. At the time, I actually missed the summons, but I knew because of checking trophies that I still needed to fight some optional bosses. I ended up reaching out to PR for some hints, which they were gracious enough to provide. Keep in mind that I was playing a few weeks ahead of the public release, so none of the wikis or guides existed yet. I was one of the people creating them. And at last, I stepped off the carriage and found myself in what would soon become one of my favorite areas in all of Soulsborne.
That hyper-specific freelance experience made finding the castle that much sweeter. And also, it's just like a really well-made area.
Cainhurst Castle is totally optional, and the environment is super different from the crowded streets of Yharnam or the shady woods surrounding Byrgenwerth. That's pretty obvious from all the snow you're looking at here, but at the same time, the story of this castle is sequestered from the rest of the game as well. Just like last time, I'm not claiming to be a Bloodborne lore keeper. We already have one of those. But I will give a brief overview so that we can have context as we tour the castle. Cainhurst is the seat of the Vilebloods, a noble family that was once a prominent part of the Yharnam community. But as the Healing Church rose to power, there was a jockeying for control, and the Cainhurst line had to go. This is why the Executioners were established. As the name implies, their job was to hunt down and execute the Vilebloods. Alfred, an early game NPC, is part of that faction, and you can join too.
Why not cooperate and discuss the things we've learned?
One reason why I love this particular bit of lore so much is that it asks you to pick a side. It's a classic video game conundrum. Who do you want to fight for? The Healing Church or the Vilebloods?
There's motivation for finding Castle Cainhurst on both sides. Either you want to help Alfred execute his targets, or you want to meet the Vilebloods and decide for yourself who's in the right. To find them, you'll have to journey through the courtyards and corridors of the castle. Your first challenge is the snow-covered Bailey, where you'll face some creepy crawlies known as bloodlickers and hateful maggots. The bloodlickers are said to be mutated forms of the knights that once served this castle, and the maggots, well, they're just nasty. From there, we make our way through the foyer, dining room, and library, connected by walkways and rooftops, all guarded by gray gargoyles, ghost ladies, and these little freaks. They're all classic castle monsters, and the whole journey gives me serious Castlevania vibes. I know I'm not alone there. A noble family with tainted blood, at war with the church? Sounds like vampires to me. Plus, it's not like From Software never references other media, or its own games for that matter. Fans have pointed out that this island near the castle looks a lot like Melinotte from Kingsfield 2. From vantage points like this, we can also see the full layout of the castle. In a previous video, I talked about the overall map structure of the Soulsborne games, how each area connects to form a snaking path through the world, complete with little shortcuts that connect these zones in unexpected ways. Castle Cainhurst is a perfect microcosm of this concept. You'll come across an elevator in the Bailey, teasing you with some upper areas you can't reach quite yet. As you enter the castle proper and see the weeping servants and stabby ghosts, you'll start making the slow climb up to those elevated chambers. Each time you step back outside, you can turn your head to see the progress you've made. These games have always done a great job of showing you where you've been and where you're going, but for my money, this place is a perfect self-contained example. Your reward for making it to the top of Cainhurst Castle is twofold. The first is a classic From Software boss fight against Martyr Logarius, the scythe-swinging, skull-summoning executioner that watches over the castle.
Didn't I say the executioners were trying to kill the Vile Bloods? Yeah, why would they be guarding a place they're supposed to destroy? Good questions, me. Let's get a little more lore.
You see, when the executioners invaded the castle, they were nearly 100% successful in their mission. There is one remaining Vile Blood, and her name is Queen Annalise. Meeting her is your second reward.
If thou wouldst this path walk, I prithee, partake of my rotted blood.
If you don't actually want to side with the executioners, this was your chance to serve a vampire mommy. 6 whole years before Resident Evil Village broke the internet. And after making your choice, you still have the final option of telling Alfred what you discovered, which sends him to Castle Cainhurst to finish the job.
All mangled and twisted, with every inside on the outside for all the world to see.
Did I actually let that sicko kill the last of the Vile Bloods? I'll never tell.
Here's the thing though, it doesn't really matter. Queen Annalise is basically immortal. Not because of the whole vampire thing, but because all it takes is one lump of her flesh upon the upper cathedral ward's altar of despair to bring her back. It's like that time Wolverine revived from a single drop of blood.
Here's Johnny.
As it turns out, Martyr Logarius stayed behind to make sure that no one else could reach the queen. If he can't kill her, at least he can keep her sealed away. Her throne room is hidden behind a false wall, something you can only reveal by defeating Logarius and wearing his crown of illusions yourself. So if we take the players involved, pit them against each other in rival factions, and set the whole thing at a snow-covered vampire castle, it's easy to see why I'm such a fan.
I love this castle for personal reasons outside of the game, and for story and design reasons inside of the game. But given the vibes and title of this video, we have to ask, is it Christmassy?
Well, your health and stamina bars are red and green, right?
I have a cheat sheet for this part, and it involves another story of an even younger Tony. Don't worry, it's literally 1 sentence long.
I once made a few contributions to a now defunct blog called A Cartoon Christmas. Shout out to the Internet Archive for still being able to see it, and shout out to the blog's rating system for giving us a way to see how Castle Cainhurst stacks up as Christmas content. The scorecard has 3 grades: Jesus Factor, Santa Presents, and Christmas Spirit. Pretty self-explanatory, but let's see how closely Cainhurst can match the criteria.
Vile blood or no, respect will be shown.
Jesus Factor. Yeah, you're not going to see the Christian god or his son referenced in From Software games. That's more of a Shin Megami Tensei thing. But Martyr Logarius is a martyr, right? And he literally worked for the church, so I think we can at least give this a minimum point. Santa Presents. Well, Logarius does kinda look like the grimdark version of Snow Miser from Year Without a Santa Claus. Nah, he's more of an evil Ice King. Also, I don't really see any chimneys up here on the roof, so this might be a 0. Christmas spirit. It's constantly snowing. That has to count for something, right? At least in my part of the world around Christmas time. And there are literal spirits walking all around the castle. Is that a stretch? Most definitely, but I'm still gonna go with a single point. Okay, so let's just tally up those scores and... oh, that's that's really bad.
Maybe you saw this conclusion coming, maybe you didn't, but here's the cliche line. Christmas, and really any holiday, is what you make of it, right?
Yeah, I know it's corny, but how many times have I said this channel is about positivity? Maybe you don't see anything festive about Castle Cainhurst, or Bloodborne in general, or even video games as a medium. That's totally fine. Your holiday traditions are what you make them. For me, it's a time when I really do think about winter biomes in video games. And when one of those biomes that always comes to mind happens to be in one of my favorite games of all time, that ought to tell you something. If you've never given Bloodborne a go, but now you're thinking you might, great. My boss guide link is in the description if you need it. If you want to bust out another video game that gets you in the holiday spirit, then do it.
Whatever you celebrate or don't celebrate this time of year, this channel and I wish you the most wonderful time. And that concludes this flimsy excuse to talk about Bloodborne again. I mean, excuse, was it an excuse? I'll never tell. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what Framework is doing, definitely hit that subscribe button in the middle. It would help me out an awful lot if you do. We're pushing toward that 10,000 sub milestone, so thank you to those of you who are already here. And if you want to see what we've already cooked up, you can hit that link on the far left. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.